Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Lots of playoff action to get into, but before we go there, David, the NBA Draft Scouting Combine is taking place in Chicago, and
Yeah.
normally we wouldn't spend a ton of time on this, but there is a very famous young man who is
Yeah.
there, going through all the scouting drills and the scrimmages. One, Bronny James, LeBron James's oldest son, and you wrote a piece for us here on True Hoop that I just thought was it's not a secret. Like, it's not because I work with you. Your basketball takes and opinions are always so measured and usually right. And I love this one because it required the point you were bringing out in the article was anyone who decides to draft Bronny James needs to have two things: discipline, and sort of temerity, right? And sort of guts to do the right thing. And as what you do for a business, which is player development, as you said a million times, NBA has no monopoly on that. And most teams just don't do that right, as we see littered up and down the place with all these players who could be great, but we never know because teams don't do what is required to actually be good. I don't want to spoil the article for anybody. I think they should go read it, but I want you to give just a quick overview of what you think is right in terms of why teams should be disciplined and what their plan should be, and then your thoughts about what you saw from Bronny at the combine.
Oh, I didn't see him at all at the combine. I know what he did though.
Okay.
But no, it's you. The lead-in was perfect. First of all, I've never met Bronny. I've never met LeBron that I'm aware of anyway. I have no relationship with their agent. That is not the case with every player that I've written about or talked about. I always just try to be a truth teller. I don't benefit from speaking hyperbolically about a player that I know or work with, and then if it turns out that I'm stupid or look stupid for what I said, that's not good for my brand. I just would rather speak the truth about everything. I'm going to be wrong about players because there's lots of variables that go on with a player. Okay. So that being said, my issue was people. He did not do much this year, and I qualify the article by saying I don't know about his heart. It's a serious thing, obviously. But 3 doctors have cleared him, whatever that means. So let's just set that aside because the team should clearly look into that, as I'm guessing his family would.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to tell a kid, listen, we all go through this, Jarod, as parents when our kids start driving.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never get into a car accident of their own design if they don't drive.
Yep.
But what kind of parents are we if we never let them drive? But that first time they do the highway drive, or go into a city that's busy with one ways, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a little like, oh shit. Are they ready? I'm assuming LeBron loves his son as much as any of us love our kids, and so I don't think they would be dying to get him to play if indeed his life was at risk. So let's set that aside. I wrote in the article that I trained a pre-draft player years ago named Drew Holiday. Drew averaged 8.5 points a game as a freshman at UCLA. He didn't even play his position, point guard, which is prescient. And because he ended up not playing a lot of pure point guard in the NBA. He could play both positions. Now he's way bigger than Bronny. Not sure, maybe longer. I don't remember his wingspan anymore. But definitely bigger, big power forward looking guy in a guard's body. He was drafted 17th overall because he had been a great high school player. There was nothing at UCLA that people thought, oh, wow, yeah. Darren Collison was their primary ball handler, one. Also pretty good player, as it turned out. Just like Bronny had to play with the Collier kid, who was considered this high-level point guard. I've watched Bronny play a lot. I think he can play point guard. I have concerns. Red flag, I wrote. He can't shoot, and yet his shot looks beautiful. He did great in the combine and apparently has done well shooting. But I happen to think that he's been under a microscope more than most high school players ever have in the history of the game. And so I think that mattered. And so my thought is the NBA is only about talent acquisition. Once you get them, then it's about development, culture, all that. But initially, it's the acquiring of talent that matters most. This guy's super fast. I've enjoyed his competitiveness on defense, his chase down blocks and so forth. A very willing and I think gifted passer. He looks like he's got advanced pick and roll play when he's had a chance to do it. And also, I like his dad. And here's what I mean by that. His dad isn't the type that's going to be the rah-rah guy in the front row. I don't love that. I know that those guys exist. Knock yourselves out. It's your kids. Do what you want, dads or moms. I like the dads that can actually bring value to them as players, whether it's emotional IQ, X and O strategy, challenging them, like Rick Brunson, if he just wasn't coaching Jalen, probably would do a good job of just being his dad on the sideline. It seems like they have that kind of relationship. I think LeBron is going to be able to help his son tremendously in understanding what's going on. So the first part is, yeah, he didn't do much in college. Who gives a fuck? Like, no one's drafting him to play next year, or shouldn't draft him. They'd be a mistake, actually. You'd ruin his career before it even started. You need to have a short, medium, and long-term plan for him. Lots of G League, lots of experience, lots of play at the point position. I would have him be doing things like, I don't care if you shoot 4 times today, manage our team. 2 weeks later, I'd like you to take 15 to 20 shots today. Learn that balance. Really, I didn't write this part because we're trying to keep it pretty brief. Really learn to experiment with how elastic your game can get, knowing that he's years away from being good, as most players are. As I wrote in the article, Paolo Banchero had a net rating of 0.0 in his second season after being Rookie of the Year and being on a playoff team. There were better players in his team than him. He was a second-year guy. He looks like he's going to be great, though. So draft him understanding it's going to be a while. And I have no idea where he ranks in the draft because that would require me knowing all the other players that I don't. I'll get to know a lot of them after we get closer, when we get closer to the draft. But historically speaking, you're lucky to get 25% of your second-round picks playing. In fact, Travis put together a nice little chart, and I think that was the number. 25% from the last 2 years of second-rounders are rotation players. So what are you really risking by drafting someone like that? I don't think so. I don't think you're risking much. So I like how he competes and keeps a smile on his face, but plays the right way. 6'7" wingspan. He's short. He's going to be 6'2.5" in shoes. So he might end up being a long-term, like, sixth man. There's not that many starters that small. But he does, the genes make a difference, in my opinion. And if we're in the talent acquisition business and he ever ends up figuring out how to shoot, not form-wise, but making shots, I think he's got a real chance to be a good rotation player, if not better.
And, you told a story once about a player you were helping before he got drafted in the NBA, and you were talking to his dad, and you said, if we can get you to be Kyle Lowry, that's going to be great. And
that was Tyrese Maxey,
right? And they were not excited about that, right? And
no,
you're
just
not
like,
at
first, no.
You're like, Kyle Lowry's been in the league 1,000 years and has made like hundreds of millions. Is an NBA champion? What do you mean you don't think you can be like? That's not good. And I think so many people, David, particularly fans, and I know but fans matter in this equation because they're the ones who are interested in the game and whatever. They need to get out the idea that, and I know it's hard, that he's LeBron James' son. He isn't going to be that.
Yeah.
Right? That's not in the cards. Just physically, it's just
Zero
not going to. It's just, look, LeBron is 6'9", $1 billion. No, it's just, he ain't going to be that. Okay? So get that out of your brain. He's probably not going to be a multi-time all-star either. Right? Like, it's just, you need to level set expectation. But Drew Holiday is really fucking good, David. Like, NBA
He's been an all-star a couple of times.
Twice, I think.
NBA champ, Olympian, right?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yes, Olympian.
Wasn't he was with Devin Booker, right?
Yes.
They
flew on the plane together after the finals. Yeah, all those guys.
Yeah. Now, again, Drew is – I'm not comparing the Drew as a player.
Right.
My only point was he's ended up having this amazing career after not really doing much in 1 year, so I'm not worried about that. Drew was the National Player of the Year in some cases as a high school player. Bronny was just an All-American.
Right.
And I thought deserved, so other people don't agree. I did get a text this morning from an agent that travels the world. Probably this guy sees more games live around the world than any agent that exists, maybe ever. He's that busy. But he's LA based, or at least he's in LA a lot. And he texted me while I was asleep, so maybe 3 a.m. my time, that he thought it was a real sober view of what he can do, and he doesn't represent Bronny. He's not in that organization, So I that made me feel good. But I also put in the article like what has to happen. Like I would meet with his agents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about his dad. I'd meet with his agents, and I would be very clear. I said the same thing years ago about LaMelo Ball. I'd have to meet with the Ball family. I'm not interested in the circus. I'm not interested in the drama. I'm not interested in someone speaking out that isn't the player, trying to get this to happen, that to happen, questioning my coach. None of that. That happens, we're trading him or cutting him immediately. And if he's not playing well for us, we're going to have to cut him. And there's no guarantee he's getting picked up. We have leverage there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you lose some leverage when he starts playing great, but you have some leverage of, well, we helped him play great. You don't necessarily win that, but you might win that. This is something goes on now with teams and the two-way players. Like, hey, we don't want you to be just a free agent. We helped get you there. And to some extent, they're true. But I think if you put that plan together and to your point, set expectations for him and his family, that you are a long way from being a productive NBA player. Initially, you'll be a bad NBA player, but we're going to embrace you in that period. We're going to support you. You're mostly going to spend time in the G League. You're going to get your ass kicked. Don't think for 1 second you're going to do well in that league. You're not. You're not any better, really, than Scoot Henderson, and he was terrible in the G League. He's also terrible this year. But does that mean Portland should move off him? No.
Right.
Let these guys develop. There is some similarities between him and Scoot, in my opinion. He looks better shooting than Scoot does. Neither guy shoots great. At least Bronny shot well in the combine. The drill part of it, listen, as someone who's done a million drills, I'd rather him make 19 of 25 than 9.
Correct.
How he plays is what matters the most to me. The best way to evaluate talent is playing. And there are exceptions. And so I've heard he looks good. I would not hesitate to draft him, even the end of round 1. If I didn't love somebody else, I think he's got a chance to be a good NBA player. And if you can get that guy after the lottery, you should be happy.
No, a great piece. Again, a sober view. That's just a perfect way to describe how you talked about it. A team that I can think off the top of my head that I think he would do well, going to their G League, getting in their culture, and they can help develop him is the Miami Heat. And of course their Bron ties there because Bron played there and won 2 championships. Yeah. I think that organization would be very good for him because they coach him.
Boston too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Boston too. I've watched a lot of the main Celtics. Brad's got a great eye for talent, I think. I'm not sure how great the G League coach was, but he wasn't terrible or anything like that. He's young, but they take it seriously. They're close. I like the teams that are close to their NBA franchise, and that's happening more and more. He doesn't have to stay in the draft, so someone's going to have to convince him we're going to take him. We'd love for him not to work out for teams. You can't control that. And here's our plan. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't like it, I don't think going back to college is bad at all. Just got to pick the right school.
Yeah, for sure. That's right, because he's in the transfer portal, folks, for those of you that don't know what's happening there. All right, David, let's move on to the floor. The Boston Celtics advanced their 3rd straight conference finals. A win over the Cavaliers, which, by the way, was not an easy win, and the Cavaliers were without Donovan Mitchell, Caris LeVert, and Jarod Allen. Yeah. And the Celtics still found a way to make that game closer than it likely should have. Now, to be fair, the Cavaliers also have pro players who give a shit and who tried and who competed, right? It's not just, we're going to lose, let me just roll over and get ready for vacation. Like, they competed, right? And tried to win the game.
And how good did their big guy do?
Well, and Evan Mobley.
Talk about NBA players.
Evan Mobley is someone. Well, let's talk about Evan now. We, in our chat, and I think on Monday's show, we talked about him, and I said, can he take advantage of Porzingis' absence? And you said, he's just not quite ready to be that consistent, dominant scorer. But when he does become that, that's it.
It's coming.
Assuming they keep Donovan Mitchell, we'll get to that in a minute, but assuming they keep the right pieces together, well, now you're talking title contender, right? Because he's great defensively, and now he can score consistently on the offensive end.
I'm not ready to say the second part, but I think that part's coming. He had a couple of really good games in the series. He looked his little spin going left or right. Whoo, that's hard to stop.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
His outside shot looks better. Big men develop later.
They do.
Scotty developed earlier. He's not a big man. He's a big guard. I love Mobley, and I've heard just the best things about him from teammates of his, going back to college. So, yeah, Cleveland's got themselves a hell of a player there.
He is all the talent in the world, and we'll get to Cleveland in a minute. But David, in that game for Boston, and we talked about Tatum he didn't really shot well this postseason, and then really hadn't had but they haven't really needed him to be the best player on the floor.
Last couple games, he was starting to come around.
He's been better the last couple of games. But he was annoyed at Tony Brothers, NBA official Tony Brothers in this game for what he perceived was lack of foul call. Now, on the one that he did get teed up for, that was a foul. I mean, the dude high-fived him basically after he shot the three. Yeah.
But I think the high five's legal, I thought.
Is it?
I think it's legal.
Well,
I don't understand. Yeah, I wasn't sure it's a foul. And to be fair, to the referees, who doesn't complain after every single fucking call every time?
Every single player does
It's gotten embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed.
They all do it. They all do it.
If my dad was watching, I wish my dad could watch a game. If he was, he would say to me, like, they have to complain after every call. And I would say, yeah, it's kind of how they do it now. It's really disappointing.
It is.
It's really, really disappointing. Strus is complaining.
Everyone.
So Tatum complained.
He complained.
So he complained a little more than normal.
Yes. So he didn't get the foul call, and he does the empathetic wave off to Tony Brothers, like, whatever, you're not paying attention. And I'm sure he said some kind of expletive as well with that, right? Because just a wave off wouldn't get a tee. Tony tees him. Jason, of course, gets fired up, goes at Tony. His teammates try to hold him back, one particular being Jaylen Brown, and you see, and the camera catches him on the face, right? Lip reads, you see Tatum go to Brown, get the F off me. And I was like,
he shoves him off him.
Shoves him off him. I was like, wow.
Get the fuck off me, yeah.
That's a little exciting. Now, listen, David, these are all young men with lots of testosterone flying around. They are just... It's a cauldron on that floor, right? There's just a lot of competitive MFers out there. He feels aggrieved. He's throwing teammates off. But you said, that's interesting to me that he had that kind of response to Jaylen Brown. What do you think you saw there in that moment?
Well, he had started playing better. He's actually had ended up having a good series. He ended up having a good series. It wasn't going great for them. Blowouts are the exception. These are very good teams. And all these, play a second round, like they're good teams. And so just win by one at the buzzer and be happy to walk away with it. If you could do more than that, great. They were comfortable in the fourth quarter. Good for them. When he shoved Jaylen Brown, I thought, well, first of all, Jaylen Brown was just thinking, oh, we don't want to go to Cleveland for game 6.
So let's not get you tossed. Right.
So Jaylen Brown absolutely did the right thing. If I was Brad Stevens, I'd Tatum in my office today. We would have a talk. Like inexcusable. It's inexcusable that you did that. This is your teammate trying to protect you and us. And you place your own selfishness of, oh, I'm getting fouled over the value of the team. So that's not tolerable. And I would address it with him. Based on what I heard a couple weeks ago about who he's leaving in the end of the season, it's very intriguing. I did some digging, spoke to someone inside Boston, and they were surprised to see it and did not think there's anything more to it than that. And also, I paid attention. Is Tatum now just not going to pass it to Brown? And that was not the case. I don't know how many times he passed it. I saw him pass a nice skip pass actually to him. So he didn't let it affect. He's not letting it affect the way he's playing with his team, whatever. But I didn't love that. I also think that Boston can grow a lot more. They're going to have to.
Yeah.
Especially if they end up playing Denver.
Yeah.
Maybe New York, but definitely Denver.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to have to. And so they've got room to grow.
It seems to me, David, that, and it sounds crazy to say, but I think you know what I mean. Boston kind of doesn't like when adversity hits them. And I say that, and I mean within a game, right?
Only one team does.
The Knicks.
They're only comfortable in this hot mud.
They're fine. They love it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they want to be there.
Right. His father's a mutter. His mother's a mutter. That's from Seinfeld. Denver has handled adversity
they can handle adversity.
But I don't think anyone wants it. The Knicks are not comfortable unless they are the most self-aggrieved team that we have.
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone complains and flops. They take it to another level, but they also bring tremendous intensity. But we'll get to them.
We'll get to them in a minute. And so to me, because all regular season, they were blowing teams out, right? Best net margin, they were just crushing.
You know what their record is now?
The Celtics for the season? Got to be 60 wins by now.
No. I think they won 64.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Am I wrong?
No, because they won 59.
I think they're 72-20. Let me look it up right now. Yeah, I think they're 72-20. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty good.
yeah, no,
Pretty good.
pretty good. And they blow teams out, right? The most,
Yeah.
what was it, I forget, 20 plus point wins, whatever the stat was this year. They were crushing people. But when they get in these games where teams hang close, they seem uneasy about themselves sometimes while on the floor. I'm like, what are you guys uneasy about? Run your offense. But they seem to not run their offense, and it just gets very bizarre and weird sometimes with that team.
They've played two absolutely depleted teams, and they beat them 4-1 both times. Lost game 2 both times at home. They're going to have to take it up a significant notch. Whether they play, if Indiana comes back and wins the series, they're no joke.
Right.
If the Knicks, who are likely to win the series, series, they've got their own real problems. Boston's particularly well matched up against New York, other than the German Steven Adams is going to be a problem for them. Horford is doing great. He's amazing. Really amazing what Horford can do at his age. But he's going to have trouble with the German Steven Adams.
You mentioned Horford. Wow. How important is this guy to this team?
Amazing. Especially without Porzingis.
Oh, he had a great game last night.
It's really ironic. It's not ironic. It's a hell of a coincidence. Not a coincidence either. It's a hell of a fact that he initially was in Philly to replace Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out at all, and yet he's done this so well, so many other times in his career, where he's backing up the big or playing with the big, and in this case, Robert Williams, now it's Porzingis, and it's going really well.
And he is, I mean, and it sounds crazy to say because you have Tatum and Brown who are veterans at this point. I mean, they're young, but they're vets. This is not year 2 or 3 for these guys. They've been in the league a long time.
Close.
But Al is the adult in the room, David. Like, right?
He always has been.
Guys, settle down. This is what we got to do here. And it's like, it's amazing and how important he is to that team. So kudos to the ageless Al Horford, who's still doing amazing things.
He's the only dude that's won the last game of the season after high school twice. And he's been to conference finals too. It's not like he hasn't been to those also.
Correct.
So, yeah, he's something else.
All right, let's move into the Cleveland side of the board. Obviously, they were down 3 men, 3 important guys on their team, but they battled, and this is a game in the fourth quarter. Now the question is, where do they go from here? We were hearing stuff throughout the season that maybe they're not sold on JB Bickerstaff. Who knows? So that's one thing. Are they sure that he's got to lead them into the future? That's one thing. You mentioned the development of Mobley, but the big elephant in the room, David, is what of Donovan Mitchell? Does he stay? Does he go? What's happening there?
I have heard that he and Garland aren't super close, and I think that's a problem. You gotta have that backcourt, in a good position, and I'm not sure they are. And so, but the rumor today was that multiple people had kind of pissed him off for lack of focus and all of that.
Had pissed Donovan off, multiple people on the teammates.
Correct. Okay. That's what I've heard today. Yeah, I read that. I had heard from a good source that they're just not great friends or whatever. It just seems like he's got a year to go. It seems like it makes sense to trade him, and there's even an argument to trade him and Jarod Allen.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of refocus around Mobley and maybe Garland, depending on what they think of Darius Garland. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. There's a few other guys they could trade, the George Niangs, whatever, kind of, in a sense, kind of do what Toronto is doing around Scotty.
Right.
Trading OG and Pascal seems crazy, but they did, and they have some chances going forward. They got RJ look good, and that's the first team I thought of about Donovan.
Oh.
I thought, what if? I don't know if they can afford it. Donovan, Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can afford it. But I think they've got some draft assets, including this year, and Grady Dick, and they can, Chris Boucher they could trade. Mm-hmm. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I don't know if it's enough for Donovan Mitchell, but you wait too long, and his value only goes down because teams know he's going to leave in free agency.
Right.
So they've got some working out to do.
No, for sure, and of course, everybody's heard by now. The big teams in market-wise that are interested, right? The Lakers, the Nets, right? There's just certain teams that have the right, pieces in place to make a move for him. One place that he was rumored to go for a while, but now clearly doesn't seem like it will because of who they have is the Knicks, because you're Jalen Brunson, right? So that's not going to work there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to them this summer. And I think the Mobley development is huge. Again, already very good defensively. If that offense becomes consistent, man, and he's what, 22, 3? He's young.
Young.
That's good. That's good stuff. He's
an MVP level talent.
Yes.
And if he's not quite that level, it's just below. So all NBA.
Yeah.
Second team, third team.
Super
super gifted. If he can learn to score like he did the last game of the series, couple games of the series, with his defensive and just his personality and everything. Yeah, stud.
No, good on Cleveland. They have some options to going forward, so it'll be interesting to see what Kobe Altman and company decide to do. David, we talked about people complaining to the ref, and nobody is the poster child of ref complaining more than Luka Doncic. However, in last night's game, David, Luka seemed to take a new approach and not complain with the refs after every single thing. Instead of giving them thumbs ups, like, yeah, you're right, that was me, I fouled, a very different kind of attitude. And I don't know, it seemed to be, first of all, it's better for him and the team when he's doing that because he's not arguing and they're not playing 4-on-5 on defense the other way, right? So just out of sheer numbers, that's just better doing that. And Dallas really just looked like the better squad last night, and you saw OKC's youth really take over. And show itself. SGA played well, but outside of that, not a lot going on for OKC. In our group text for True Group, you'd said Luka's the best lob passer in the league, and you said, getting these 2 7-footers, it's huge. Let's talk about the art of the lob pass. Something that looks very simple and easy, and David, I know it's not, because where he's throwing it to and the pinpoint accuracy, and it's not like from, he's just top of the key. Yeah, sometimes there, but it's like half court. I'm like, how in the world is this man getting that right on the button every single time?
Yeah, he's super talented. Yeah, the lobs in the paint are much easier to throw. There's not a lot of room for error. There's a little bit. You got to get it above the rim. You got to get it off the rim. Otherwise, it could be a goaltend. You can't get it too far out typically, and you got to get timing. You have to make sure the ball reaches the dunking spot when the player does. That's what practice can be held for. But he also just has talent for it. He's got a real feel, and he's got 2 big guys and Derek Jones Jr.
Yes,
that can really jump. Yeah, PJ's not a stiff either.
Yeah,
so he's got Nico Harrison's done a great job of getting just what they need to play with him, and they still have another level. Because Kyrie was just okay.
Yeah. And they didn't even need him, right? I think, what did Kyrie? 11, 13? And so that's 11, that's a huge sign for Dallas, because if that guy gets cooking with Luka, well, shit.
Yeah.
Now you're in
They're
trouble.
going to need it.
For sure.
They're going to need it. If they get by OKC,
right.
Which is no guarantee. Yeah. I was talking to a player for a team before the postseason, and he said he's a young player who's never been in the playoffs before. And we were talking about what is the face. And I said, I need you to really focus on, he wasn't going to play very much in this series. He's young. On pressure that you see on the court, these players that are going through, because you have to take that feeling into your offseason practices. So I talked to him before the game last couple of days, and before their game 5, and he said, "I know what you mean now, Coach." He said, "I get it. There's a different vibe. This postseason is pressurized. And I feel it, and I see my teammates feeling it and the opponents. And I think OKC is just learning that. There wasn't much of that in New Orleans, and we've talked about how do they handle some adversity. Well, they're down 2-3 with 2 straight home losses, and not really all that close. I mean, they were competitive for sure yesterday, but Dallas really controlled much of the game, certainly late in the game. And quite frankly, this series could be over. Dallas was up in game 4. And just couldn't hold on. OKC, they're coming. They're young. Yeah, and I don't think it was youth in terms of turnovers. They had 8 turnovers in the game. Not that Dallas forces a lot, they don't. But they're short on talent right now. Those guys still have to develop. Jalen Williams, as we talked about, they're not really worried about him, and he's not producing every single game.
David, to me, Dallas's defense, which we talked about since February,
since after the trade.
We were like, wow, this team is defending, and that to me is what I'm seeing. It's limiting OKC to one shot and that size on the interior. None of Dallas OKC's buckets look easy to get. None of them. Like, unless they get a stop and run out in transition.
Yeah.
It's just in the half court, it's like, man, this sucks. Like, you just big dudes everywhere. Shai's got to be brilliant. They're not hitting threes right now, because they're getting open threes. They're not hitting them.
Yeah,
which,
that's a big part of the story.
That's a problem. Yeah. But Dallas's defense, and even, look, Luka is nobody's all defensive team candidate.
He's trying.
However, and again, when you're that big,
Kyrie
and when you just try and you're 6'8", you're going to be able to stop because he's just huge and you can't move him because he's so big.
Kyrie's trying too.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing. And I think, look, to your point, it's about development for the OKC guys. Jalen Williams making another leap and getting better, right? Again, I think they're seeing, like, to your point, this is the playoffs, man. It ain't, regular season's one thing.
I thought going into this series, both Dallas and Indiana need to force 6 games to feel like we've done pretty good. Like, if you anything more than that, you're living beyond your means. They're young. These are Indiana's got Siakam and a little bit Turner, although he doesn't have much experience. But most guys this is all new for them. OKC, it's all new, mostly, right? And it's just, you got to go through the pain first, man.
Yeah.
You got to go through the pain first.
Yep.
And they're going through the pain. For sure.
Listen, and this is a huge, huge playoffs for them, winning round 1, getting to round 2, and look, making it, if Dallas wins, it's in 6. It's not a sweep, right? So,
no,
and there's no guarantee.
Win 2 games.
Right.
They have done it on the road. Indiana only did the road in the first series, not the second. But still, it's going to help them, yes, I think, in next season.
For sure. Not only help them, the guys who are there development-wise, it also gives Sam Presti and Mark Daigneault, okay, what do we need going forward to compete with these guys and become true title contenders, right? What is that? Is it that alpha wing guy? Like, whatever it is, and they certainly have the draft capital to get it and the cap space, right? So who can we acquire?
Or they just develop the guys they have, which very well may do that. Is Jalen Williams could be that alpha guy.
Right.
You got to be careful in not acquiring the person that also
stunts the growth,
the advancement of the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stunts the growth. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. If they stood pat, I don't think it's a bad move.
Yeah, no, for
sure.
As
much as I've been complaining for years about it, Shai now sees we just got the 1 seed, and we can return everybody. We're going to be fine.
Yeah,
Chet should get much better.
Yep,
get stronger for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He still can't do some things that maybe one day he'll be able to do. J-Dub, Cason Wallace is nice. Yeah, I could, if Shai says, "Hey, we got to bring someone in," fine.
Right.
If he doesn't, run it back.
Sounds good. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. Okay, David. The Minnesota Timberwolves are on the brink of elimination. It was just 7 days ago, 5 days ago. Now the days are running together. I don't even know how. Seems like a while ago they were up 2-0. And everybody was like, uh-oh, Jamal Murray had a calf thing. We were like, this ain't looking good for the defending champs. Since then, what has happened? The Nuggets have reeled off 3 straight. Nikola Jokic did what David so astutely predicted during the season. We said, who's the MVP? And we said, well, who's playing like the best player in the world right now today in the regular season is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But you said, but the caveat, when push comes to shove, because Jokic is cruising right now, when he decides, oh no, I'm going full best player in the world mode, he will regain that and be that person. David, that's who I saw on the floor the last 3 games. Someone who's solved the puzzles. Oh, this is what you want to do? Okay, I got it now. Someone who's super engaged and just, what a joy it is to watch Jokic do what he does. He's the best player in the world. And what's so great about these players is their ability to access higher levels. And that's what separates them, right? Is that their ability to, okay, I'm going to do this now because we need this in the game. And it is super, super fun and amazing to watch. And also, if you love the sport of the NBA, it's historical. You're watching one of the greatest players in the history of the league in real time right now, Nikola Jokic, right? A 3-time MVP, possibly a 2-time champ and a 2-time finals MVP. There was talk, David. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Are we witnessing with Nikola Jokic the best offensive center in the history of basketball in his prime?
Okay, so I'll take that last question first. If we don't look at sheer dominance, because probably would have that, I think.
Yeah.
I think yes. Kareem would be right there
correct.
too. With Jokic, I mean, he leads the break, and then he's your best pivot player, and he, as we'll get to, scores at will. Did score at will in Game 5, pretty important game against the best defensive player, inside anyway in the world, in Rudy. Probably, yeah, and he checks every box. I listened to Aaron Gordon being interviewed about being humble and how much he's learned as a basketball player and how he's transformed his game, which I just love Aaron Gordon for that. And he credited Jokic. He said he's the best player in the world, but doesn't act that way. And it helped me do my thing. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. As somebody who's talked to his teammates before, he's really beloved. And what we thought in the season was he's probably the best player in the world, but he's not playing like it. So why should we say that he is?
Correct.
But I suspected there's something left. And I get it. He's world champ currently and 2-time MVP. I don't think he really cared so much to win the MVP, as it turns out. I think wrongfully he won it easily anyway, like by a lot. So it worked out just fine. I think he's laughing like, that was an MVP season? What I worked so hard the year before that for, and the years before that. And so I think now we're seeing this, what to your point, this is what the best can do. And I've told you the story before. In the 94 Final Four, my team, the Florida Gators, whose starting center played for me for 4 years, who's starting power forward, I coached against and got to know locally here in Clearwater. In fact, he went to the high school that my kids went to, Andrew DeClerc. And I knew their point guard. I helped recruit him when he was visiting Kentucky. They were my team. And we were kicking Duke's ass. And my kid was killing it, finished with 17-9. Until Grant Hill said, all right, I'm done with you fucking guys from Florida. And that's the first time, remember, now I've been watching basketball for a long time already at that point, although I was not yet 30, amazingly enough. I realized, oh, that's what a blue chip player looks like.
Yeah.
There's not many of them.
Right.
There just aren't many of them.
Right.
They can just do everything. And I remember thinking about that when Jordan in The Last Dance talked about, which I think Henry still hasn't seen, Jordan, when he talked about how he knew he could control the game with his body. And then as he aged, he realized, oh, now I have to control it with my mind.
Yep.
That's what Joker is. He just controls the game in every way. Some of his shot making, as I wrote, and I said to you, I wrote an article about it.
Yeah.
It's his finishing.
Yes. Elite.
That we tend to take for granted. He's just a spectacular shot maker. And that's what makes him what you suggested. It's not just the passing. In fact, he dribbles like a guard and pushes the break and makes passes that nobody sees. He also can't be guarded one-on-one because he's such a creative finisher.
But then you can't double him either, David, because he knows where the double's coming from.
And he's such a great passer. I really think that if you could measure a person's processing speed, his would be the fastest in the NBA. I think things really seem in slow motion. Think of all the mistakes you've made in your life, fumbling the soap or a toothbrush or a glass. If you had a brain that was so fast that all that was happening much slower than real time, none of those things would happen.
Right.
Or far less frequently.
Right.
Same as accidents and so forth.
Right.
If things just slow down for you, you could avoid the squirrel or the car merging that doesn't see you. I think that's what happens with him. It's not fair. He's seeing it faster. And he's 7 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
He's 7 feet tall.
And he's 7 feet tall. So that
the touch and skill. Yeah, it's unfair. Fucking bullshit. The rest of us are just trying to figure it out, man. It's like you see Ryan Reynolds is, I think, unquestionably, people think a very handsome guy.
Yep.
He's also very funny and witty. And I heard his wife talking about like what a devoted dad he is.
You're like, not fair.
This is bullshit. The rest of us are just fucking hacking it out as best we can. Right. And then I heard Steve Carell talking about Ryan. I don't know that Ryan Gosling is so handsome, but women seem to like him a lot.
Right.
So he performs with a band. This is according to Steve Carell. Yeah. At like old retirement people communities.
Oh, communities. So he's like nice human being too.
When you have that kind of fame and fortune, it doesn't make you the greatest guy in the world.
Right.
But it doesn't make you a schmuck either.
Yeah.
And so it's unfair. So fucking Joker, it's unfair. Same with LeBron. LeBron's got the same computer in his brain.
Right.
Kyle Lowry having it, that's a cool story.
Yeah, because he's
the runt of the litter in this league. Yeah, right. But those guys, fucking unfair, man. And so that's what, I don't know what Rudy Gobert said in French afterwards, but I'm sure he's dreaming in French. Like, this motherfucker. Like, the 1 year I win DPOI for the fourth time I have to play against this guy?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you went there, so let's go there. So naturally, and David, we've talked about this before, and we had a great show. I encourage people to go back and listen to it, maybe 3 weeks ago now, where we had talked about what David so eloquently broke down, what people got wrong about the Rudy Gobert thing. The idea he gets played off the floor in the playoffs, and David's like, it was not about defense; it's about offense. Like that's not what it is. Like you're missing the point. This is an elite defender. So, you know how fans get it, but it's important because former players pick up on this too, and they are, unfortunately, David, the voice of the NBA for the casual fan. That's who the casual fan respects, right? Not us. No, what do you guys know? Those guys play in the league. They know what they're talking about. Yeah. So, of course, Jokic has an amazing night in Game 5, and in the moments where he was guarded by Rudy one-on-one, in this particular game, he cooked him 8 for 9 when Rudy was his primary defender from the floor. Forget about the fact that going into the series, he's 11 of
28.
Right, which is terrible when Rudy's guarding him. But no, who cares? That doesn't matter. In that game, he got,
prisoner of the moment.
Right. He schooled Rudy. Moment. Rudy sucks. He's not, this is your defensive player of the year. And I'm like, guys, why do you keep doing this stupid shit? Like, I don't care. AD, Bam, Jarod, I don't care who you throw out there. In that game, Jokic was cooking all of them. Because he just was. That doesn't mean Rudy's a bad defender. And then you have guys like Draymond go on inside and say, and Draymond's trying to be funny and tell his jokes. Rudy's saying, "Oh, we need to be better. We need to be better." So that's what he was saying about Rudy speaking in his native tongue, because he kept saying, "We need to be doing this." He's like, "You need to get a stop," and I'm like, Draymond,
that's so stupid.
You don't stop. You don't stop Jokic either, my guy. Like, so I don't know.
It's not one-on-one.
Correct.
And Draymond knows that.
Correct.
I mean, it's. I was talking. I didn't know any of this, what you were just saying, because I don't watch those people for this reason.
Exactly.
I'm forced to listen to them too often when the games are going on. That's brutal enough for me. But I was talking to Henry yesterday, and he understands this stuff better than me. The fans want to hear this, and so people are giving it to them. That doesn't mean it's good for anybody.
I agree.
Because I would argue it's not.
I agree. David, and again, basketball is a complex sport, but I think oftentimes people want to make it simple. It's just 5 individual games of one-on-one, and it's not. Sometimes, yes, it is about guarding your yard and keeping your man from doing whatever it is he's supposed to be. Yes, but what is the team defensive concept? What are we supposed to be doing on these rotations? And that's the stuff that gets lost in the sauce that most people don't understand.
I wish they would ask him. Who would you least like to face? I remember Jordan was asked this long ago while he was still playing. And his answer shocked me, but also
I think I know who.
Who?
Drazen Petrovic, I think. They guard him, or he wants to guard?
No, they was guarding him.
Oh, because he didn't like guarding Petro. I remember that.
Oh, that's super cool.
Not fun.
I love that.
Not fun.
I want to hear more about that one day. But he was asked who gives him the most trouble defensively, and he said a kid from Florida, Mitch Richmond, from Kansas State, obviously great player, Golden State, and all of that, because he said he was just so strong. And so he was quick and athletic, but very powerful. And Jordan was way stronger than most people realize. Even early in his career, he just also happened to be quicker and more skilled, way quicker. And but no one was talking about Mitch Richmond as a defensive. You can look it up. No. I doubt he won any awards.
No,
it worked against Jordan. Well, maybe someone exists out there that guards Joker better than Rudy. I'd like to hear what Joker says about it. But we don't give awards based on how you defend one guy.
Right. Correct.
Right, we have metrics for that. Again, I would have picked Bam this year as DPOY. I had my reasons for it. It's not like I thought Rudy was a bad pick. Right. I thought he was a much better pick than Joker as MVP this season. But the narrative is the narrative, and you can't piss it. It's like spit in the wind.
No, you're right. JJ Redick and Richard Jefferson had a conversation on their podcast about it, which I thought was wonderful. And again, this gets into the specifics of basketball, right? What Gobert gets to do on Minnesota because of the elite defenders he has on the wings, right? is do what he's best at, which is rim protect, right, and be that roamer in the middle, right? That's you got this huge 7-foot million wingspan. Good luck getting any layups when that guy's standing around in there. But Denver kind of made a switch, right? They forced him to guard one-on-one, which he's still good at, but he's elite at the other thing. So you're taking away his elite superpower. It's not that he's bad at one-on-one. It's just that, no, he's the best at that other thing. But we're not letting him do that other thing.
Yeah, that's the chess match. This is what you're dealing with all the time. As one, I'm not going to say the name of the player. They're still playing. But there's one player that he's a guard, not a big, but the assistant coach told me our problem is he's our best on-ball defender and our best off-ball defender. And so we love not to play him on their best scorer because he's so good off-ball. But now we're not playing our best on-ball defender on their best scorer. But if he's on that guy, well, then he's not helping. So kind of fuck either way. Well, that's Rudy against many guys, right? Against many guys, including Joker. He's your best on him. He's your best off him. They don't have other guys that can do it. As good as their defense is,
right?
They wouldn't be number one in defense without him.
Correct.
I don't think.
No, you're dead on. It's just Rudy's a lot of hate from people around the league, and it's just so easy for all these Draymond jumps on it, all the former players. It's catnip, and the fans love it because they hate Rudy too, right? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just goes round and round. All right, David, on to the Timberwolves, who I don't know this for a fact, but you win 2 games against the defending champs, you start feeling yourself a little bit, right? You're like, oh, we're doing good here. But it's 1-4, my guy, not 1-2. And I think in the manner in which they won those first 2 on the road in their place, they were like, shit, we are good. Well, now you're finding out the other side of this, right? You talked about pain you have to experience in the playoffs. They're learning now, right? Now, granted, yes, they have been to the playoffs. This is their 3rd straight year, but losers in the first round every year until this year. This is the next level of it, right? How do you come back from this? And David, I don't know if collectively the squad as a whole believe they can. I think Ant believes, but he's just one guy. I don't know if the whole squad believes they can. What do you think? Do you think the Timberwolves believe they can win? Yeah,
no, I think there's a crisis of confidence there. I really do like what Edward said afterwards regarding Joker.
Yeah. Ant was like, what am I supposed to do? He's the best player in the world. I got to laugh.
Right. I just love that. I love when young men can recognize game. It's the macho thing would be, oh, this motherfucker sucks.
Right.
Like the Knicks are sure everyone in Indiana is terrible. Fucking terrible. They thought everyone in the Sixers was fucking terrible. And the next thing they play, they're all fucking terrible. Jason Tatum sucks. That's how the Knicks, that's their mentality.
Yeah.
Now, after the series, I have no idea what they'll do.
Right.
It'll be interesting if they end up winning it tomorrow night. Do they shake their hands? Do they fucking spit on them? Like they fucking hate those guys.
Spit on them.
And I'm kidding about that. But I don't know how sweet they're going to be. It's their personality. They're brutish is a great word for that. I think DiVincenzo literally, I know we're not getting there yet, but when he had his altercation with Isaiah Jackson, he literally just said, fuck you, it's like 3 times. That's how they play. But I like that Ant did that. I think it's good for him. I don't think Jordan would ever do that when he was younger.
Yeah.
He did it in his own way. He really revered Bird and Magic. I don't like a lot of things about Michael Jordan other than on the court talent, but that's my favorite thing about him is he really respected winning. I think he absolutely worshipped Bird and Magic. They just played and they did it the right way. He knows the Carolina way. And they played the same way and he loved it. He really loved it. And I always said he's going to play till he gets 6 rings because Magic got 5.
And he did.
Yeah. That's what I always thought was going to happen is he's just going to get 1 more because they both got one national title in college, right?
Yep.
Jordan's got 2 gold medals though. So he's just competitive that way, right?
Yep.
So I think Minnesota has just run up against. That's why I don't understand why they wanted to lose that last game. Like none of it makes sense to me why they lost that last game.
I agree.
I think they tried to beat Phoenix and lost, and it woke them up. We'll see how this does. But yeah, they Denver just it's hard to. They're like I've talked before about how some defenses are almost like a snake. If you're going to get away from like gigantic python, according to what I've seen in the nature footage, whatever, it better happen quickly.
Right.
The more you wrestle, they use your movement to strangle you better. That's how it was playing against the Heat's defense years ago. The Denver as a team is just, they just have other levels to manipulate you. And Jamal Murray looks great.
Yeah.
And KCP is playing great.
Yes.
Great.
Aaron
Great
Gordon.
basketball.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Aaron's a whole nother level too. Yeah. I love their starting five is spectacular. And and you saw they had a team dinner after game 2. Did you see this article? And Aaron Gordon couldn't make it
invited.
for whatever reason.
Well, because
first game he couldn't go.
Right.
The first time he just couldn't go.
Right. And so since they're winning, they're like, well, don't come because you're going to mess up our thing.
Right. DeAndre Jordan, which I think is silly. But I was superstitious once in my life too. Not any longer. I don't think it works that way. But I think it's cute that it happens.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have sent that article to players in the playoffs about this isn't a bad thing to think about doing when your team is kind of on the ropes for whatever reason.
Yep.
Kind of rally the troops a little bit.
And David, we talk about it all the time. They know who they are, and they know in times of crisis. Okay, right? When you are in the cauldron, right, and you face adversity, you just revert back to whatever's comfortable for you, right? That's just human nature. Yeah. Well, comfort is our 2-man game. We know who we are here. Yeah. Everybody's like, they just know. Other teams, I think, are still trying to figure out who are we in adversity. And when you're trying to figure out in the playoffs, usually not a good sign, right? Like the team that knows gets the advantage. So kudos.
Yep.
I think Denver probably takes care of this, and this doesn't get the 7.
I don't know.
Is my guess.
I think game 6s are going to be tight. Yeah, I think these are pretty evenly matched teams. The one bad series is over because of Cleveland's injury. No disrespect to Cleveland. I think these series, home teams could very well win, could also lose because the teams are close.
Well, speaking of, let's get to the Knicks and Pacers. That series is now 3-2. Pacers have Knicks pushed the Pacers to the brink of elimination. So after a blowout win by the Pacers in Game 4, Knicks come back, blow out the Pacers in Game 5. Only on 1 day rest in between. Now, David, they have 2 days between Game 5, which I think is going to help the Knicks, right? Because they're for sure banged up and tired and playing a ton of minutes.
So was Indiana.
And so was Indiana. In some ways, David, was Game 5's the way it went with the blowout predictable?
The only thing I thought was predictable was Hartenstein. I thought, in talking to a lot of people before the game, I said defensive rebound is going to be the key for Indiana because they've been outplaying the Knicks on the glass pretty considerably. They were a plus margin until the last quarter of the last blowout game in Game 4. And I watched all of Hartenstein's offensive rebounds today, and a good number of them. I mean, he's the German Steven Adams. He's the second best offensive. His numbers don't show this year for a few different reasons, but the way he's playing now, and he's fresh compared to what a lot of the guys were. You didn't play as much this season.
Right.
He's just overwhelming people. And Indiana was gravity bound. The same thing happened to Indiana in Game 5 that happened in New York in Game 4. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have a spark.
Yep.
The pace that they played caught up with them too. And we'll get into that whole diatribe that Steve McGunny did. Indiana was just gravity bound. And so a lot of Hartenstein's offensive rebounds were not because they didn't get boxed out. They just didn't go get the ball. And that, I mean, you just can't give up 12 offensive rebounds and expect to win a game.
Definitely not.
And New York played well. I don't understand why they're not doubling Brunson more. He had 40 points again.
Mm-hmm.
Cooked everybody. He looks healthier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where the announcers have failed so dramatically is in recognizing it wasn't just a change of who's guarding Brunson. It's such a silly thing to even consider if you pay attention. During the regular season, Nembhard guarded him better than Nesmith, who also struggled not to foul him, which is why Nembhard was on him in Game 1. If they knew Nesmith was the answer, he would have guarded him in Game 1. But he wasn't. The biggest thing was he got a sore foot in Games 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. And the Pacers shrunk the court more with him and doubled him more late, which was smart. I don't know why they didn't do more of that when he was scoring on everybody. Yeah. He's just on one of those benders. Yeah. And he's amazing. Yeah. And they allowed him to score 40 instead of doubling him a lot more. I don't know why. And the easy reason is because you'll get beat more on the glass. When 2 are on the ball and the guy's a perimeter-based player, we're going to be matched up 3 versus 4. We're in trouble because everyone offensive rebounds except for Brunson on that team. Hell, DiVincenzo got a tip dunk the other day.
Sure did.
Well, you're getting killed on the glass anyway. Right. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more doubling in Game 6. And so, I thought the only thing inevitable was New York was going to give everything they could to getting involved in the glass. It's a big part of who they are. And for the first time in the series, they dominated the way they did the Sixers in all but one game of that series.
You mentioned sending more late doubles. Look, we are huge fans of Brunson in his game on this show. I mean, it's what he's doing at his size is incredible. But he's still 5'11" or 6 feet tall, right? Can they double him late with more size? You always say more size and length is the hardest thing to score over. Hard to pass over length too, right?
And he's not great against it. His second section data shows he's not great against it. And he's had some turnovers in this series with it. So yes, Siakam they're using more as a roamer, and it's had some effect. I think he needs to be more of a doubler.
I think so.
And the way Miles Turner rebounded against Hartenstein in Game 5, maybe he should be doing it because he ain't rebounding anyway. He needs to. He really. I mean, he and Siakam both were more gravity bound. They look tired to me. So yeah. I think we'll see the best game of the series. Although the first 3 games were great.
Yep.
I could see this game being even better.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. I would love to see Indiana do that with the length, because if you're throwing 6'7", 6'9", 6'10" wingspan at Brunson with Nesmith or Nembhard on him, that's a lot for him to see around and pass over. You'll get turnovers, and that gets them out on the break, right? Gets them sped up and playing with higher pace. Let's hope we see that. And if they're hitting threes and Halliburton's aggressive, like he was in the games they won. I mean, that's seeming right. It's like when you look at the stats
the other
at the
big
end,
thing.
Right,
Jarod, that's the other big thing. It was, to me, it was defensive rebounding for the Pacers, and also Tyrese playing well again.
Yep.
He's just not been, he just looked like a nothing again.
Yep.
Got murdered.
Yep.
And I think that's, he's at home. They're just a much better team when he plays great, obviously. And because the team is built around him. He better play well in Game 6 or they're not going to win.
One of the things that the Bucks said about the Pacers and the Knicks kind of intimate at, do you think the Pacers are front runners? In that when things are going well, they're like, but then when it's not, they don't have the same fight.
I think the players are fucking stupid when they say shit like that, because it's so dumb. You know why I think it's dumb?
Why?
Because the fucking Knicks were up 9 in the fourth quarter of Game 3, and they lost.
That's true.
Okay? So you can make up whatever story you want to convince yourself that we're the big bullies and they're soft pansies. But the truth is, you were up 9. I would call you the chokers. I didn't, because it was just one game.
Right.
So, no, I don't think that. They almost won games 1 and 2 in tight matchups. They were down. Game 4, you guys played great. Congratulations. You played great. They are an incredibly strong-willed physical team who love to complain when you pop them. You see that Siakam kind of pushes Brunson. You see this?
Yep.
Brunson's like a long series. Like, they're not doing that shit all the fucking time.
Right.
Like, this is playoff basketball. They're just the most aggrieved team that we have. Their fan base, all fan bases are aggrieved.
They're the most
As
aggrieved.
players, they're a bunch of Luka Doncic is what they are, right? It's just how it is. Nevertheless, it doesn't affect them in terms of their effort. They fucking compete their ass off. All of them. All over the place. All the time. It's beautiful to watch. I don't love hearing all this stupid shit. And then when I saw in the document you put front runners, I just thought, I don't know where it came from.
Well, it's because the Bucks did it too. It's when the Pacers are doing well, they're talking, they're chirping, everybody's laughing and having a good time, and they're playing with intensity. But when they're down, they don't play with. No one's talking. Right? Tyrese isn't yapping. No one's, whatever. And I'm like, well, because they're losing. Yeah. So of course they're going to talk when they're losing.
Right. They're never just making you just an idiot. Like, I don't want you to talk. I don't want them to talk. I don't love when they're talking when they're winning either.
Period.
No, right. I'd rather just focus on basketball. Right. They have enough cut out for them. So if you want to say they love to prance and preen,
right,
I'm fine with them saying that, because that is not something I like at all.
You don't. No.
But they were just down 9 in the fourth quarter, and they won the game. Now, it took a nice 3 from Nembhard. That isn't something they would do strategically a lot.
Right.
Nevertheless, it was not like they were losing that game. It was tied.
No,
we were down 9. They tied it. They took the lead. So they outscored them by, I think, 15 or 16 late. So, no, I don't think they're front runners. I do think they're young.
Yeah.
I think they have some young guys who are going to be better at home. I do think it's funny, though, when you hear about the role players do better.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Tell that to OKC.
Yeah.
Tell that to OKC.
Yeah.
Because a bunch of their role players didn't do so well and haven't before in their losses.
Right.
Good players play great, sometimes on the home, sometimes the road. It's never one thing. It's just all stupid narrative.
No, but it's so funny, though, right? Because those are things that drive storyline. Another piece of the storyline, David, and the report about them being youngest, this is all helpful reference points for Indiana as they continue to grow, They'll remember these things. Okay, one of the big narrative stories, but it's an important one from this series, was the overwhelming amount of minutes that Thibodeau is playing his guys. And we were like, those guys are starting to break. And of course, they come out and they blow out the Pacers in game 5 with great energy. And so the natural inclination for Stan Van Gundy in the broadcast, oh boy, those Knicks, those minutes are. And I'm like, Stan, stop it. Like, because it's not about that. It isn't about in any one game or any one scenario. It is about the cumulative effect of playing these kinds of minutes. By the way, OG Anunoby still not back yet. So that matters. But you didn't mention that. All you mentioned was the guys on the floor were kicking ass because who cares about minutes?
I'm friendly with Stan. He's hired some of my players, some of my old players in the past as coaches. But I want to say to Stan, did you watch Game 4, Mr. Van Gundy? So did they just choose to not try? Did they throw the game? Should there be an investigation? The way it works is as your body starts to wear down, you don't have that freshness as often as you did to start this season. I thought Indiana looked tired in Game 5. I thought New York looked really tired in Game 4.
Mm-hmm.
Pacers were tired in Game 5. Knicks were tired in Game 4. OG is out. That's a fact. These things happen. It's never now. Once I think you turn the corner for good, it's for good.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of gas, but you need an off season to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, New York isn't out of gas. We saw in Game 5 they were everywhere.
Right.
It was great. They were not that way in Game 4. Why is that? Do they collectively not care? Of course not. They win that game, they know they're probably going to win the series. So, but just again, this goes to just they got to just have the narrative that they want, and they're all going to defend Thibodeau to the end. And I'm sure he'll get a new extension and all of that.
Oh, it's already in the works. They're talking about it. Stories, yeah.
Yeah, of course they will. I get it. Whatever. But the hamstring issue. Either fire the trainer because he didn't stretch his guys enough, which they're not going to do, and probably shouldn't. Soft tissue injuries normally are in that situation. We think anyway. Likely due to overuse. Just they're worn down, and I've heard people defend how many minutes other people are playing. So Jason Kidd plays his guys a lot, therefore it's okay for Tom. No. And the worst part about this is the worst part. With the part that I'm upset about is you see how good Hartenstein's playing. You see how good Alec Burks is playing. Like you could have played those guys all year. You didn't have to play everyone as many minutes as you did. Josh Hart doesn't have to play 48 minutes every game. You have other people. You're choosing not to play them. The mistake you're making is thinking this exhausted guy is better than that fresh guy. That's the problem. If you had not played them as hard, as long as you did,
they'd be less exhausted.
It would be over already. You would have won Game 3 probably, and maybe even Game 4. Because you guys are tired. They can't do, again, they gave up a 9-point lead. That didn't just happen accidentally. It's just a trend that you're looking at. Maybe they'll have enough energy to win the next round too. But it's less chances of that. The probability of that is lesser because of all the minutes they've played cumulatively. And especially given we know these other guys can help. And you're just choosing not to play them.
Yeah. No. Couldn't have said it better myself. I hope this series goes 7 because I think that's just what, quote unquote, I don't like using words like deserve, but that is what fans deserve, right? A 7-game series, that would be awesome. I'd love to see it. I know Boston would love it to go 7-2 to make these guys tired, but I will tell Boston this. The Knicks will present, and Indiana, whoever wins, will present problems for you and make you face that adversity. We talked about the Knicks and their attitude about they don't give a F about anybody, and they are hair on fire every possession. Tell you what, the Celtics don't play like that every possession, like their hair is on fire. The Knicks sure do. And so, listen, you wake up, and they might punch you right in the mouth, right out the bat. So get ready, New York, for whoever you got coming in the next round. All right, guys, let's wrap here with top 5 performers in the playoffs right now. All right, David, who was on your 5 line?
So I'm going to give you 7 names that I'm choosing from.
Okay.
And here's what I tried to do because I really wanted to make sure I looked at defense. I don't have time to study all these players defensively, and none of them are perfect by any stretch.
Nope.
So I looked at their net rating. So here are the top 5 players in net rating that are like significant contributors, 30 minutes a game. So in 7th place is Jokic, amazingly enough, plus 6.8. 6th is KCP, plus 7.2. 5th is Tatum, plus 7.9. Siakam is 4th at plus 8. Brunson 3rd at plus 8.1. Drew Holiday plus 14.4. I'm going to give you one guess, and if you get it, I won't give you $1 million, but I'll buy drinks for a weekend if you can get number one.
Oh, let's see.
And it's a big number. Brunson's plus, Drew's plus 14.4. It's a big number.
And it's a starter?
Oh, yeah. It's a key contributor. Yeah.
You already mentioned Drew, so it's not Derek White.
No, that would have been a good guess. No, he was like only plus 5 something.
Oh, I wonder what's going on there.
You're thinking the right thing, though. It's the Celtics, and it's Horford. Plus 18.4 net rating. That's, to me, pretty damn amazing. So, I'm not going to give it to Tatum at the 5th spot because of what he did with Jaylen Brown. So, he's off my list.
Fair.
He is banned from my list for his poor behavior to a teammate. So, I'm putting Jokic at the 5 spot. He could easily be number 1 or 2.
Correct.
But right now, I've got him at 5. Who do you got?
I got SGA at 5. And here's what I did with my list. If you were already out by now, you're just not on, because what are we doing here? Like, I get it.
No,
like,
we're doing second round only.
I'm like, I just can't put you on.
I'm not putting Franz Wagner in there. Nothing against Franz Wagner. He was great.
Right, but let's not.
He and Jalen Suggs had great.
Right, but you're not.
But they're out.
Right. SGA is there at 5 for me.
Okay. So at number 4 for me, I'm going with Horford.
Okay.
Even though he's plus 18.4. He's asked to do less than some of the other guys I have on the list. The other guys I have on the list. So he's my number 4.
I got Brunson at 4. And the reason why no Celtics are on my list is because, listen, you play who you play, but they beat up on inferior competition because of injuries and whatever. So I just can't. I have not seen the best version of the Celtics yet, which is why nobody from the Celtics is on my list.
Okay. Number 3, I have Siakam, who's plus 8 net rating, and also here's a trivia for you. 2 guys are scoring over 20 points a game and getting over 7.5 rebounds a game, and also making half their shots from the field.
Siakam and
Pascal's
Jokic.
1. Yeah. And I think Embiid might have AD was the 3rd.
He's out, so he don't count.
So Pascal is playing efficiently and leads their team in scoring. The Knicks are bottling up the paint pretty good. But yeah, he's been a very good bright spot for them. Yeah.
On my 3 line is Ant-Man. Look, they lost 3 straight. I get it, but I can't discount what he did amazing. The first 2 rounds, the first, whatever, how many games. So Ant.
Right. Number 2 for me is Drew. I was watching Boston. He's just doing everything right. He's doing everything right. He's the other adult. I think there's 3 adults. Because Horford and White are too.
Yeah.
Not that Brown is bad.
It's just that they just kind of like steady. Like
I thought a lesser team would have lost to Cleveland more than one time
for sure,
because they were playing great. Yesterday, the crowd was great, and they just want to win. I thought they really handled their IQ. Their emotional IQ was very good. I thought.
Well,
except for that one instance with Jason.
I think when you're old as a player and you know that I don't have many of these left, right? That's all. Yeah. None of this shit matters. Let's win this possession and win this game.
Yeah.
Youth wasted on the young, as you often say. 2. Yeah. Look, he's not shooting well, but my God, like it's just when I watch him, David, I'm just like, you're just the best player. Every time I look at you, Luka Doncic is just so good, and they have no solve for him. They have nothing. Like
no one can. Yeah, I kept him off my list because of the complaining. I'm tired of the complaining. But
he's fair.
He's amazing. I thought he competed really hard last night. I was happy to see it. I thought he was excellent last night.
Yeah.
And it was a big win. To beat the 1 seed at home in Game 5, that's a big deal. When you're beating him and you're the road team.
And he gave a shit on defense, David. I was like, all right, man, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
And then Brunson's my top player.
Got it.
He's making impossible shots.
Impossible.
He's carrying the team. The Pacers are letting him carry the team. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. But yeah, what he's doing is just extraordinary. He's not making easy shots, and he's not 7 feet tall. He's the opposite. Yeah.
And my one is 7 feet tall, is the best processor, and it's just amazing at everything. It's just Jokic. When I watch him and Doncic, I'm like, fucking unfair, man. Like you should not also be able to, when I take away this, also do this other thing. Like you can't be good at everything. That's again not fair. It's not fair.
No joke. No joke. All right, my guy.
Well, folks, enjoy the weekend. We'll conference finals time next week, no doubt. We'll know who everybody's playing, and we'll break all that down. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.